So, my thoughts on awakening versus healing. And this is just discovery. This is just dialogue. This is about observation. And I'll share some conceptual stuff with you, some of my own personal experience with this, and you can take from it whatever you want to get from it. First of all, let's talk about each of those. So, the first thing is healing. What is healing? Well, healing is getting over, getting through past woundings, growing up, things that we're unconscious of. And there's basically three ways that we do this, where we go in and we find basically what I call the knot or the origination of the wound, and that's like a soul explosion healing. Basically, once it's discovered, it can be healed immediately. And then we have this other way of doing it: is we may find the knot, but we can't. But it takes a while for us to process getting around that knot or this thing that's holding us up in the process of our healing. And the last way is just being. And basically, these are just spontaneous healings when you just feel, you wake, you've prayed, you've intended whatever it is you pray, and one day you wake and then you just feel lighter, and you just feel like you don't have that angst and you don't have your mind going around that wound and seeing the world with that wound. And then what is awakening? And it was always very ambiguous to me, this idea of awakening. It was this, and I think it still is, and we have this cultural phenomenon now which we're calling woke. We're calling people woke. So what exactly does that mean? And so this is what I've discovered for myself. And now what I'm doing is relating kind of the ambiguous stuff, the esoteric, metaphysical stuff, and not saying any of that's wrong. I'm saying that there's this saying, "As above, so below," and I always wonder what the heck does that mean. And along my journey, I figured out what that means very well. Is that the inner journey and the outer journey reflect each other. As above, so below. As above, so below. So whatever I might be experiencing in the spiritual sense, whatever that might mean, um, I will see it manifest into my exterior world. And so, what does it mean to awaken? So, and hopefully, I can put up this meme for you right about now. And basically, what this shows is the idea of what we're unconscious. So, if you have any understanding, if you've come along your path this far and you've had that moment where you figured out that you had been doing something unconsciously that you didn't want to do, didn't want to be doing, you were just doing it because that's how you were processing the world, and then you learn, oh my God, that's not how I want to act in the world, and you change it. So basically, was you couldn't have done, you can't do anything other than what you're conscious of. So the idea of awakening is really just discovering what we're conscious to, what we, so one of the biggest things along my path happened I think about 10 years ago, where I discovered through I was working through a divorce, and discovered that I had brought stuff into my marriage from my childhood. And immediately, when I discovered that I had this unconscious behavior I just brought from my childhood, I just changed it immediately. And so that was my first knowing that there was this thing called the unconscious. And so if you saw the meme, it's what I know, and that's what I don't know, I don't know. And then it's what I know, I don't know, I don't know. And it may not be exactly that. You can read the meme. Um, but there's this idea that awakening is basically just awakening to what we're unconscious to. So it isn't that the unconscious is unconscious, it's that we're unconscious to the unconscious. That means we just can't see it. So awakening to me means just opening up more of the veil. That's a lot of spiritual talk. It's about moving the veil aside. And very literally in psychology, it's the same thing. We're just trying to open and expand our world more and more and more. So I just want to talk about how healing and awakening kind of work together. They're oscillating functions within this journey, meaning that if we heal something, that means we awaken to a new realization, and then if we awaken to another realization, we'll have a healing that goes along with it. And so that might just seem, well, Jim, that doesn't really mean anything. And this is what I want to bring to this is what do you focus on? What is in your mainstream? What I discovered and why I wanted to share this was that I started to see that I have focused way more on awakening than I've focused on healing lately. And that has a big effect on my relationships with people. What I started to realize were the people that are truly the people that are, I could go to them and I can say anything. Um, they're people that are more apt to be in the awakening state than they are in the healing state, or they at least accept my awakening. Because what I find is along my path, I have people come in and they're very interesting and we seem to have a good friendship, but we can't communicate with each other. Um, and what I can look back and see is that they were really focused on their healing, and I was really focused on awakening. So whatever is in your in your presence, if you have a hammer, everything's a nail. So whatever your hammer is what you're going to be putting your mind into. And I put my mind into awakening. I want to open up new paths. I seek people who want to be honest with me, that want to truth with me. But then there's other people that if you're in a healing pattern, so you're focused more on your healing, you're going to tend to shy away from um, truth, really, in big chunks, because if you're thinking about the wound, then any kind of abrupt change in what you see could be painful and make you believe that somebody doesn't have the greatest of intentions, because one's telling the truth and one wants to just be kind of um, nurtured, is a good way to say it. There's nothing wrong with either one of these paths, um, or one of the other, but what I realize is that I have gone through a lot of, like, it seems like I have with certain people, I have this great relationship with them, um, but I tend to not feel heard. I don't feel like they really understand what I'm saying. Um, I have one egregious example where I would literally just put it out, like these things that were really bothering me about the way that the way our relationship was. They just got ignored completely. And it's kind of like cognitive dissonance, where what I was saying wasn't going in what was important to me, and they would get frustrated at me because they didn't feel like I was being honest with them, and they didn't feel like I was nurturing the relationship the way that we're. But I really felt like I was trying to do my best, but it got to this point, and it was like I just had to realize we're not on the same path. Um, we're not focused on the same thing. And I'm realizing that in my professional career, whether I'm soul friending or do psychotherapy, I tend to I tend to um, people that are really in a healing mode, they tend to not work with me and be interested in working with me like the people that are awakening. People that are awakening love the idea of no subtext. They love the idea of basically spinning around their thoughts so we can break up these old patterns and these kind of things. And they relish in that, and they're curious. where somebody in the healing state would be a little bit more pulled back. It's not that I don't feel like I can work with people that are in the healing stage. I just think I'm more effective uh, with working with people that are trying to awaken. So, would love to have your thoughts on this. If you have stories from the road, love to hear about it. Keep at you.